I have a story time that I wasn't going to share because it freaks me out and I don't like talking about it, but I'm going to share it anyways because it's a good story. Okay, so when I was younger, I was probably 9. I was a brat. I'm still kind of a brat, but I was a major brat. So me and a family member were arguing. It was my great grandma and my aunt, which is my uncle's wife at the time. They're divorced now. That's not the point. She was there and she was like, come on, we're going to go get some ice cream. I was like, okay, whatever. Sorry, I had to go do something. So I was like, okay, whatever. But my shoes, I couldn't find my shoes and I was getting more frustrated. And then me and my great grandma were fighting more. And then she was like, just get on my back. I will literally carry you to the car. Just shut up. Stop talking. I was like, fine. So I walk out the door.
Today's true scary story is scary because it has to do with mimics and the ghost of a person who was murdered. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kaisa. I tell true scary stories on here that you guys submit to me through email every single night. Also, if you guys want to subscribe to my YT channel, the link is in my link tree in my bio where I tell scarier stories, longer version of stories that I tell on here, and the same stories. Also, if you guys want to tell me your true scary story, my email is in my bio. It is kaisaspooky@gmail.com. Okay, let's get started. Today's submitter's name is Sarah, and she did say that I could tag her, so her tag will be in the description. If you have any questions or comments for her, drop them in the comments. So when Sarah was pregnant with her son, she was nearing the few days at the end of her pregnancy, and so she went to go stay with her mom so that her mom could help her out. So one day, as she's at her mom's house, she's sleeping on the couch. She falls asleep and she wakes up in the middle of the night. She rolls over to look up and she sees a floating head of a woman just floating in front of her. So she's obviously scared, but she's absolutely exhausted at this point. So she kind of rolls over and pretends like she didn't see it because she's like, I'm tired. I'm seeing things like that was nothing. It was not nothing. But the next day when she woke up, there was one thing that was really bothering her about this, is that this head looked very similar to her mother. And she knows she saw it, but she just couldn't figure out whether she was dreaming or not. So she decides that she's going to tell her mother about it. And she does. She tells her mother about it. Her mother turns pale as soon as she gives her a description of what the head looked like. Her mother then runs upstairs and brings down a picture of somebody. It was a scrapbook, so her mother opens up the scrapbook and she points to a picture and she says, is this who you saw? And she was like, yes, that is who I saw. And she said, that is your aunt who was unalived by somebody when you were a baby. She was so confused because she had never heard the story before, and maybe it was to protect her, or maybe it was because she was so young and she just didn't want to tell her, but she had never heard the story before. She had no idea what she looked like. She had never seen her, never met her, at least as an adult. So she was baffled. Before we go to the second part of the story, which is by the same submitter, what do you guys think of this? Do you think she was dreaming? Do you think she really saw something? And what do you think this person was trying to do by just showing her her head? Was she trying to scare her? Was she trying to tell her something? What do you guys think? So the next story is when she was living with her father at the time, and she was in her room listening to music with her headphones on. Music was on full blast. She was waiting for her father to get home from work when all of a sudden she hears her father.
All right, you guys asked for it. You want to hear more story times. I'm going to tell you the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in the Maine woods, and it's not what you think. So I'm a country boy, grew up in rural Washington County. My one move when I have a girlfriend, I'm going on a date. Where do you think I'm going? Going up to Camp Bug, right? So stargazing, I like stargazing alone, just not with, dates or girlfriends, stuff like that. So long time ago, I was with my girlfriend at the time, Leslie, and we were going out to my camp. And as you guys know, in some parts of Maine, especially on the water, the stars are lit up, peppered in the sky. Constellations, everything. You can see shooting stars. You can even see satellites now. There's satellites all over the place. So it is definitely a destination you want to be on a summer night. Faint loons in the background. You can hear peepers. It's amazing, especially on a romantic date, on date night, right? So we're out there and that's happening. Balloons and the peepers. And it's really romantic. And we're sitting on my dock. And everything else is just dead silent. We're enjoying the moment. And all of a sudden, we both heard a little girl's voice simultaneously go, Leslie. And we both jumped. It wasn't like, did you hear what I heard? We both looked at each other like, what the fuck was that? And you guys will have to laugh. I'm 6'3", 265, but I hightailed it out of there. We jumped in the car and we took off. So honestly, that's probably the scariest thing that's ever happened in the woods. Much more has happened to me in the woods, and I will continue to share if you guys like these stories. Please continue to like, share, and comment. I love doing these videos.
This girl said that she played with a Ouija board and then she was haunted by a nun. This story is so terrifying. While I was reading it, I was like, what the hell is going on right now? So this girl's name is Courtney and she's from South Wales, United Kingdom, and she's 22 years old. So she said at this time she was really obsessed with the paranormal, very intrigued with it. And one of the reasons why is because unfortunately her mother had just passed away and she really wanted to contact her mother. It's important to note that Tiffany is very sensitive with energies, right? She's an empath, she's an intuitive. So her playing with the Ouija board wasn't a good idea in the first place, but again, she really wanted to talk to her mom. So one day, her and her friends decide that they're going to play with this Ouija board. She says that they start playing with the Ouija board and she immediately starts to feel this massive amount of dread, just negative energy. And of course, nothing happens while they're playing the Ouija board, she said, but she said that it was afterwards that was the real issue. So after they're done playing with the Ouija board and they say goodbye, she for some reason feels like she has opened a portal in her living room. She doesn't really know why, but she thinks that she has. So she decides that she's going to take the board and she's going to snap it in half and throw it in the garbage. This was a huge mistake. After she throws the Ouija board away, she later on that night goes to sleep and she's laying in bed and she wakes up in the middle of the night and she hears something and she's like, what is that noise? And she hears like this soft whispering and it's going, Tiffany, Tiffany. Now, she didn't really tell me what she did about this. I'm assuming that she just ignored it because she said that after this happened, it first started with whispering, but then the nights following after that, it became more persistent and a little bit louder. So it was saying, Tiffany, Tiffany. Well, this goes on for a little bit, long enough to make her feel like she's gonna have a breakdown because nobody believes her and nobody is listening to her. Well, one day, one of her best friends comes over. They're having a sleepover and they're both just on their phones, chilling in her bed. They're talking when suddenly they hear this. And this scratching noise. And then she hears, Tiffany. So Tiffany looks at her friend and her friend looks at her and Tiffany looks at her and goes, did you hear that? Please tell me you heard that. Her friend's like, yeah, I heard that. Now, apparently her friend had had sleep paralysis quite often and had experiences with spirits herself. So this didn't really bother her that much, but her friend did make her swap sides of the bed. She didn't want to sleep next to the wall because that's where they heard the scratching noise. So they swapped sides. Now, Tiffany said that at this point, things really did start to scare her because she didn't know how to protect herself and she was terrified. And she knew that spirits had fed off of fear, but she didn't know how to stop being scared. This is where things got even worse. Her head started to burn, like her scalp started to burn really bad. She said that it felt like there was a sunburn on her head and that hair started to fall out. Now, she said that this actually got so bad that it progressed to the point where she started to feel like she had a sunburn everywhere. She had it on her knees, her ankles, her elbows, everywhere she felt like she had a sunburn. She finally went and told her grandparents because she was so scared, and her grandparents took her to a church. So they go to the church and the church is closed. So they go to another church, that church is closed. They try all these churches and all the churches are closed. And so at this point she's feeling completely hopeless because she is sitting in the car, and as she is sitting in the car, her head is still burning and she can feel this thing touching her hair. And not only is it touching her hair, but it's like tugging on it. So she's feeling pretty hopeless at this point, and they decide that they're obviously going to go back home. They have no other choice. So she goes upstairs and she needs to wrap a towel around her head at this point because she is so sick of this thing touching her hair. So she goes to grab a charger and she wraps a towel around her head. Well, as she is walking towards her grandparents' room where she's going to sleep because she's not sleeping by herself, something grabs the towel and yanks it off of her head. She is hysterical at this point. So she runs down the stairs and she goes to talk to her nan, and she's like, something is happening to me. I don't know what's happening to me. And her nan is like, listen, we're just going to pray for you. So they all start to pray together, right? But at this point, she is still burning hot. And then she starts to feel something on her leg and it's hurting. So she pulls up her pants, and right where she pulls up her pants on her right leg is 3 long scratch marks on her right leg. This is where it gets really bad, okay? So they get done praying and they all go to bed. So she's laying in bed and she is trying to fall asleep when she hears it again. Tiffany. Tiffany. Now, she's so scared at this point that she just grabs a pillow and she just puts it over her head. Now, mind you, she is sleeping next to her nan, right? So she's sleeping next to her nan. She has this pillow over her head when suddenly she feels something get on the bed, and it slowly starts crawling on top of the bed. Then it crawls on top of her, over her, and then suddenly it just stops. And she's like, okay, I'm good. Maybe it left me alone. When 5 minutes later, her nan just shoots up and just goes, At this point, Tiffany realizes that the spirit had done something to make her grandmother cough. And if you can think of what the spirit did, I can't say it, but like what would you physically do to someone to make them like lose air, right? Now it gets into the scariest part, because now is the part where she sees whatever this is that is haunting her. Her and her friends go to a hotel room one night. They decide that they're going to have a couple of drinks. Well, Tiffany at this point decides that she's going to go take a shower. Well, as she's in the shower, she's opening up the shower, right? And she gets in. She then hears Tiffany again. And she slowly turns around behind her for some reason. Nothing's there. So at this point, she's like, okay, I need to sit down. I need to calm down. I cannot deal with this anymore. I have to not panic. I have to not show fear. So she just sits down on the toilet. And where she's sitting on the toilet, she can see the reflection of the shower in the mirror. But she's not looking at the mirror yet. She's looking at the floor. She then slowly looks up into the mirror, and she sees a nun standing in the shower staring at her. Now, Tiffany legit feels fear through her entire body at this point, but she is like, I have to stop letting this thing scare me. I have to do something about this. So she takes up all the courage she can in her entire body, and she turns around and runs towards that shower. She whips it all the way open, and there's nothing there. She said at this point that fear kind of took over again, and so she just runs out of the bathroom. But as she's running out of the bathroom, she kind of glances in the mirror again, and there is the nun again, and it just goes, Tiffany. She said that that night she absolutely could not sleep, and that this scared her so badly. She says that she still deals with this to this day, that she still will hear her name being whispered constantly, and that she still will feel things crawling on top of her as she sleeps, and that she reads the Bible every single night. She reads Psalms 91 every single day. She wears a cross necklace every single day, and things have gotten a little bit better, but she still has sleepless nights, and she does not know what to do because she's absolutely terrified. By the way, her real name is Courtney, but I did not see that she didn't wish to be anonymous until the end of the story. Unfortunately, I don't know how I missed that part, but she doesn't wish to be anonymous. Her real name is Courtney. She said to let everybody know, do not play with the Ouija board. You never know what you could let in, and it's terrifying her, and it could terrify you for the rest of your life. So I am going to tag her below because she did say that she wanted to be tagged, and she also wants to know if you guys have any advice for her. What do you think this is? Because I do not think that was a nun. Obviously, we think we know what this is. Yeah, I can't say the word, but I think obviously we know what this is, because this is pretty bad. This is a pretty bad haunting. I mean, you're going through a lot. You're getting physically touched. You're like, you know, I can't even say what's happening to you, but you know what's happening to you. I said it in the story. Not nice things. So not nice things are happening to you. I definitely think that this is what you think it is. And I think that you definitely need to seek professional help from a clergy or whatever your culture, I don't know what your culture is, but go seek a shaman, a clergy, something that can help you kind of work through this, or maybe even be exercised in some way. I don't know, I'm not a professional, I shouldn't be giving you that professional advice, but definitely something to help you, because this sounds kind of unsafe. Drop all your opinions, suggestions, and comments below, but please, as always, be respectful, because she is scared, and this is something scary that's happening to her. I'm very quickly going to do the shout outs because I have like almost no time. STFU2896. You said that I was part of your morning routine, and I love that so much. Thank you so much for supporting me like that. Thank you for liking my videos enough to watch them that often. Thank you so much for being kind and leaving comments and pushing out my videos. I hope you know how much I truly appreciate you, and I wish that I could say more, but I'm running out of time. I love you, girl. Bree_Stevens20. You're so cute. You said that it's always a spooky time when you watch my videos, and that you love watching my videos, and that means so much to me. Thank you so much, and I'm glad it's always a spooky time. I hope it's still a spooky time, even though I can't say or do anything. But I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being a part of my community. I wish I could say more. I love you, girl. I'm about to run out of time, and just thank you for being a huge supporter. I love all of you. Good night. This girl experienced a lot of scary-ish in her house, and the why at the end is unsettling. So Josie lived in a small town outside of Manitoba, Canada. She grew up there in a house trailer, and she had never moved in her entire life. Ever since she was little, though, she had always had these paranormal experiences, like scratching at her door, and she did not have any animals. Constantly waking up with unexplained marks all over her body and hearing walking in her hallway. She also sometimes experienced sleep paralysis, and she would often smell smoke, but she didn't really think anything of it because she was little. So at the age of 10 years old, she starts to watch Sam and Colby. movie, and she learns more about the paranormal. She starts thinking about everything that had happened to her, and so she started researching the paranormal, and she learned a lot. One night, she's about 13 years old, and she's sitting in her rec room, and there's windows all around her. She has all the curtains closed, and she's just chilling on the couch watching a show when bang, bang, bang! Someone was banging on the window. She jumped up so fast, she was terrified, and she just sprints to her parents' room. She's like, there's somebody outside banging on the window. So her dad, of course, is like startled, and he goes to check, and there's no one outside. And remember, they live in the middle of the country. They live in the middle of nowhere. So her dad's like, you're just hearing stuff. Go back to the couch. Just relax. So she is hesitant, but she goes back to the couch, and she's like, all right, I'm just going to relax. She sits down. She starts watching TV when bang, bang, bang. But this time it did not stop. It's just continuous banging. She's sitting there frozen in fear. And finally she gets the courage to get up, and she just whips open the curtain. She said there was no wind outside. There was no trees by the house. It couldn't have been a branch. And as soon as she went to go touch the window, it just stopped. And she just sat there frozen, staring at the window, freaked out of her mind. After this, more things started happening. More sleep paralysis, more things that she would hear and see. Doors would slam in her face. She would hear kids running down the hallway, and then she would hear them laughing in the hallway. And then she started waking up with marks on her body that were worse than before. So one day, she's home alone, she's doing dishes, and there's a window right in front of the sink, and then there's a rec room. The rec room was an addition, so they had a window from the kitchen to the rec room, if that makes sense. And then another window in the rec room to the outside. So she's doing the dishes, everything's fine, and she glances up into the rec room, and she sees something in the rec room. There's a full body apparition sitting in the rec room in a rocking chair, rocking back and forth. So she jumps back, looks away out of fear, and at this point she's thinking, I've never even seen a shadow person outside of sleep paralysis. What is happening right now? She then glances back, and it's gone, but the chair is still rocking. She was so scared that she calls her friend. Now, her friend didn't believe her, but she didn't care. She knew what she saw. After this, she started wondering why her house was haunted. Nothing happened in the house to cause it. It wasn't even an old house trailer. And her mom thought that there was another house that used to be there because they used to walk around the bush and they would find like brick everywhere. And there was also like this strip of concrete in the ground behind their house. So it looked kind of like a foundation. Well, just this year, her and her mom are outside and they're just hanging out outside. And this guy walks by and he's like, wow, this house looks different. And her and her mom are like, how? And he's like, well, that wasn't there. The trees used to be there. He says there was a brick house right there. And he points to that exact spot where that strip of concrete was behind their trailer. So Josie looks at him and she's like, a house? And he's like, yeah, a nice house. And a nice family lived there. And Josie goes, well, what happened? And he's like, well, a family lived there, 3 kids and a happily married couple. There was a disagreement between the father and his brother. And one night the brother came and he boarded up the entire house on the outside, made sure no one could get out of the house. And let's just say the next day when the police got there, the only thing left was ashes. There was one family member that wasn't inside, and it was the oldest boy, and it was because he was at a sleepover. So Josie was in absolute shock, but finally understands why her house is haunted, and it's because the land is unfortunately haunted. So what did you guys think about that story? First of all, I just want to say that the whole rocking chair thing does not sit right with me. I would probably lose it if I saw that. Yeah, I don't think I would like it very much. You know what makes me think about that banging on the window is really sad. Because if you think about it, I can't say it, but if you think about it, like banging on the doors and the windows, that's sad. That's really sad. Obviously, she smelled smoke, so that is a sad story. That is a sad haunting, and it makes me wonder, when that happens, is it residual? Like, was she experiencing something residual? Because I hope she was, because I hope that family was able to pass on and go to a better place. I hope that they aren't there, like, stuck. So that's the only thing that makes me sad, is I really hope that they were able to pass on and she is experiencing a residual haunting, right? But what do you guys think happened here? Well, obviously we know what happened, but what is your theory of this story? I would love to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Drop all your comments, suggestions, and opinions below, but please, as always, be respectful. And with that being said, I'm now going to do my favorite part, which is the shout outs. Caitlin _ Emma _ get ready with me _ Dior. I hope I got that. Thank you so much. You left such a sweet comment, and I appreciate you so much for that. I appreciate you being a part of this community and for being kind and leaving kind comments. I appreciate you for watching my videos. It means so much to me that you watch them and that you like them. And I appreciate you being a girl's girl. That's my favorite, when I see other girls in the comments. So thank you. You are absolutely awesome. And I hope you know that I love you, girl, and I appreciate you. And I can't talk. JM2519. You said something so nice. You commented on my storytelling style, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It means so much to me because I work so hard on these stories, and sometimes I tell them when I am exhausted, and then I see your sweet comments and it makes me so happy. Like, I'm so exhausted right now, but then I read your comment and I'm like, you know what? I love this. I love doing this because of people like you. So thank you so much for being a part of my community. Thank you for watching my stories. Thank you for liking my stories. Thank you for leaving comments and pushing my video out. Thank you for being here. I hope you know how much I appreciate you and I love you. And with that being said, my name is Kaisa, and I tell your paranormal experiences on here or ones that you suggest to me every single night. So if you're into that, hit that follow button, and I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? Oh, I forgot to say something. Thank you so much to you all for being my spooky babies. Okay, I just had to, throw that in there because I forgot. Where was I? Oh, yes. And I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? Keep sending me your scary stories. Have a safe night. And what's the third one? Stay with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys so much. See you in the next one. Spooky kisses and haunted hugs.
Can we show them the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
My experiences in hotels, and this is coming from Alexander DeVille here on TikTok. By the way, thank you so much for letting me share this with everybody. This is the time to sit back, relax, maybe go grab a snack, because this is a long story, but it is so good. Hey Letty, I wanted to share some of my experiences since Halloween is around the corner. I've had some unusual experiences whenever I stay in hotels while traveling. Strange things always seem to happen, and I'm usually the only one who wakes up and hears things while everyone else is fast asleep. I encountered ghosts and communicated with some of them growing up. However, throughout the years, I started to suppress my spiritual side. As I got older, I've reconnected with my spirituality and intuition, but still keep my distance from spirits. I often joke with my friends that I'm probably the only one who gets woken up by strange noises in hotels because I am more open to the spiritual side than they are. I think it's because I'm in a familiar and controlled environment at home, but it's not my space in a hotel, so I am more vulnerable to these occurrences. My friends and I traveled to Denver, Colorado for a concert. It was 3 of my friends, and one of them brought their younger brother, whom we all call Steve for his privacy, who is a few years younger than us. All 4 of us slept in the bedroom while Steve stayed in the living room on the couch. I remember hearing banging on the door in the middle of the night. I assumed it was Steve, who needed to use the restroom, which was in the bedroom. Despite the loud noise, none of my friends in the room seemed to have woken up. Feeling tired, I assumed Steve would figure out that he just needed to slide the door open, so I didn't bother getting up to open the door and fell back to sleep. The next day, I asked Steve why he had been banging on the door if all he had to do was slide it open. He looked confused and denied ever waking up during the night. Everyone was a little unnerved, so I changed the subject to prevent them from getting scared. Later that day, they received the news that their uncle had passed away the night before. We couldn't help but wonder if it was their uncle who had been banging on the door the previous night. This other time, we went out of town and had to stay in a hotel. But before I continue my story, I want to mention that I have been a devotee of La Santa Muerte for 2 years here on Dia de los Muertos. Steve asked me about La Santa Muerte and said he had heard she was bad. I explained that the Santa Muerte is not inherently bad. It depends on the intention of the person seeking her help. Some people may misuse her power for negative purposes, while others use it for good. In general, she cares for and protects her devotees. She is not for everyone, but she deserves respect because we will all see her when the day comes. I also mentioned that I always light a candle and pray to her for our safety when traveling. After our conversation, we called it a night and went to bed. It was the next day we checked out of the hotel and started driving back home. On our way, Steve told us that he had seen a dark shadow sitting next to my feet on my side of the bed. He mentioned that he blinked several times to make sure he was seeing right. And indeed, he saw a figure sitting right next to me while I was sleeping. He said he couldn't see its face because it was facing away from where he was, but he got scared and covered his face with the blanket. Despite him feeling frightened, he told himself, "No, Steve, you have to see what it is." So he got the courage to uncover his face, but there was nothing there anymore, and then later went back to sleep. While he was finishing his story, I looked at him through the rearview mirror and asked, "Was she wearing a cloak?" He said yes. I smiled and said, "Who you saw was La Santa Muerte." He looked at me with shock and fear, but I told him not to be scared. She was just watching over me while I slept. This is why she was beside me, next to my feet.
like a mother watching over her sleeping child. Mi santita siempre me cuida. Knowing that she was watching over me while I slept warms my heart. The next time we went out of town, Steve didn't want to go anymore. He said it wasn't because of what he had seen, but I low-key think that's why. But then again, I don't blame him. It would be expected for anyone to be afraid, especially because we're all taught to fear death. In our next trip, there was only 4 of us and Steve didn't want to go. Let's call them Jenny, Eva, and Sam for their privacy. That day, we went to a mystical store where they sell crystals and images. In this store, there was a section of statues of duendes. I automatically did not make eye contact with them and did not make any negative comments on how they looked because I knew you should never disrespect a duende and their appearance. As I walked around the store, something kept calling me back to where they were, and I was tempted to buy one and have it for my protection in my home. But in the end, I decided not to buy it because it is a lot of responsibility to have one in your home, and they are known for being pranksters and getting jealous of pets, and I would not do that to my poodle, so I left it as is. Jenny, Sam, and Eva brought protection necklaces. After leaving the shop, we went to a different store. As we walked, Jenny's purse was unclipped from the straps and fell off her shoulder. Her protection necklace fell out of her purse. I jokingly told her that the evil spirits didn't want her to have that necklace. We all laughed and her purse kept falling off. I would understand if the clips to the straps were loose or broken, but the clips were perfectly fine. We went to Chick-fil-A and I was standing behind her in line when it happened again. She was about to reach into her purse to get her wallet. I saw it unclip this time before Jenny reached over to her purse. Even the clerk saw it and looked at Jenny weirdly, so Jenny finally got tired of it falling and decided to carry it instead. After we finished eating, we went back to the hotel. I brought up the topic of duendes and told them that I hope none of them had said anything negative about the duendes at the store. Jenny looked nervous and said yes. I thought to myself that they were weird, ugly looking. I told her, no Jenny, you should never make negative comments about them or they might get upset with you. Nothing happened after that. I wonder if the duendes were unclipping her purse. It was night and we were getting ready to go to bed. There were 2 queen beds. Jenny and Eva slept in one while Sam and I slept in the other. Eva was teasing Jenny, telling her she better not snore because last time she couldn't get sleep because of her. Not to throw shade at Jenny, but she does snore pretty loud. I told her we could have a snoring competition and see who snores the loudest, and we laughed about it and went to sleep. It was around 6 a.m. and the sun had not yet risen. I could hear faint talking, although it wasn't loud, but in a lower tone. I thought to myself, why are Jenny and Eva having a whole conversation this early in the morning? I was so tired because we had gone to sleep late that night. I tried to ignore them. I ignored what they were saying, but I realized there was snoring and only one person talking. Then I started to sound repetitive, and I thought, wait, that kind of sounds like a spell or a ritual or something. Who the fuck is casting a spell right now and on who? So I kept my eyes closed and focused on what was being said. That's when I realized the small voice was saying, "Accept your eyes," in a rhythm with Jenny snoring. So I figured Ava was probably talking in her sleep. Jenny kept snoring and the little voice kept saying, "Accept your eyes." I really had to go pee, so I got up to go to the restroom and also to see who was talking. When I got in front of the bed, I realized Eva was not moving her mouth. I looked to see if there was anything in between that could be making that noise, but there was nothing. That's when I realized it was coming out of Jenny, even though she was snoring loudly. Oh, I got chills. Wait. I told myself it was way too early for the paranormal shit, and I really needed to pee. So I went to the restroom and did my business while listening to the voice, and the voice stopped as soon as I flushed the toilet. Then I came out and everything was the same, except there was no longer a small female voice saying, "Accept your eyes." I decided to go back to sleep and tell them about it in the morning. In the morning, I told them what I had heard, and Jenny was in denial. I told her, "Jenny, I wouldn't make this up," but I think she was scared to accept that the voice was coming out of her. She even said that sometimes people mumble when they snore, but I told her, "No, Jenny, this was a completely clear voice saying, 'Accept your eyes.' While you snore, there is no
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
I was 16, sitting on my couch, watching TV. Phone rings in the kitchen. It was one of the cordless landlines. You remember those? I ignore it. Stops ringing. Rings again. Annoys my sister, I guess, because she goes into the kitchen, grabs the phone, picks it up, comes into the living room where I'm at, sitting on the couch. She says that my friend wanted to talk to me, asked for me, hands me the phone. I take it. Silence. Hello? Nothing. Weird. I hang up, set the phone down, keep watching TV. 20 minutes pass. Phone rings. Pick it up. But this time, I hear people talking. People. Two. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, I feel like I'm eavesdropping. I feel like somebody butt dialed me, and now I'm just listening to this conversation. But you know me, I'm being a little bit devious, and I'm being real quiet, and I'm listening to it, trying to pick up on what it is they're saying. And it's just like them talking about a coworker or something, like two women. And I feel like I recognize the voices, but whatever. Eventually, I kind of get bored, and I'm just like, hello? Instantly hangs up. Okay, whatever. Set the phone down. Go back to watching TV. Another 20 minutes pass. My mom gets home. She comes into the living room where the door to the outside is, and my sister wanted to talk to her about something. So she goes in, they start talking, and I'm just sitting there watching TV. And they say something that just reminds us, I'm just like, what is this? And then I notice I've heard this conversation before. 20 minutes ago, on the phone. So I look at them and I tell them that, and they both stop and turn toward me. And my sister says, "You too?" Apparently, this had been happening to them for months. The phone would ring. It would either be no one, or it would be someone talking. And then later, that conversation would happen. And then it stopped happening.